I've been bullied about my weight since I was 11 years old. She started out at 198 pounds, and she's down to 140 pounds.
Does anybody disagree that if we can stop childhood obesity from a health standpoint, that we should?
What happens when you put a child on a diet is that you actually...
Nobody said anything about dieting. You're wanting to ignore health because you want to run a social agenda. May sound shocking to you, but we've reframed an obesity epidemic that affects nearly 20% of children in America, and we know it will have significant lifelong health consequences: heart disease, breathing problems, joint problems, gallstones, anxiety, depression, greater risk of stroke, and many types of cancer. Now, that's some pretty negative outcomes, don't you think? So how are we going to handle it? By embracing the body positivity movement. It's a movement that promotes acceptance of all bodies, regardless of size, shape, skin tone, gender, and physical abilities. Even those who push body positivity have fallen victim to the tragic effects of obesity. Now, these 4 social media influencers were swept up by the movement that claims obesity is perfectly healthy. The tragic truth is they have all died under the age of 45 from health issues related to obesity. Now look, there's nothing wrong with loving ourselves or our bodies if we're being realistic about what love means. Now, Suzie and her 14-year-old son both had a reality check when they were each pushing over 300 pounds. Suzie says she found a miracle way to lose weight, and now she wants her son to have a shot to thinness as well.
I'm here to share my weight loss journey using doctor-prescribed GLP-1 medication and taking my son, Jeremiah, who's 14, on the same journey.
It's always been really difficult for me to lose weight. I've never been into sports. I didn't really have any interest in doing football, soccer, anything like that. I tried doing keto, and it just wasn't for me. Too many limitations.
When the pandemic came, Jeremiah was gaining so much weight. He started turning to emotional eating as well.
I was really bored, and I feel like it was a lot of just binge eating. I was just downing a bag of chips, and I wouldn't even notice. My dad showed concern for it. He would go into my room and just see all these packages everywhere. I would say I had a bit of a depression room. It was always dark in there. I just felt numb whenever I was emotionally eating. The only thing that was on my mind was food. At my heaviest, I was probably around like 350. That's whenever my mom came to me about the shots and how it was similar to this drug I had been seeing all over TikTok. And so I was really interested. And the first week, I noticed instant results. I was not hungry for probably like the first 3 days. At one point, I was losing a pound a day. The next dosage wasn't available. We couldn't get our hands on it. I've gained like 5 pounds back. It's difficult because I'm hungry kind of like all the time, and it's okay to be hungry, but it's not okay to starve, and I just kind of don't know the difference between the two because I don't know if I'm eating too much or too little. Once I get the shot again, I think it'll be smooth sailing.
Well, welcome to you both.
Thank you for having us, Dr. Phil.
What made you realize that you had to take control of your weight, that you really wanted to make a change?
A doctor visit. When they're telling you you can die of this weight that you have on your body, that is something that I can control, right? So I was told that I was borderline diabetic and that I was potentially going to die of a stroke if I didn't lower my blood pressure. So that was my moment. Like, my children need me, and I need to do something to change and lower my body weight.
Okay. And Jeremiah, do you feel like your current weight is a problem to you in the way you live your life, feel about things, choose activities?
I would say yes and no. Emotionally, I really don't feel like it's affected me a bunch, but I feel like physically, you know, just different things, like being on a plane, it's a little bit like tighter, and like finding clothes, it's a little bit harder than for people who aren't obese and heavier. So I feel like it's a give and take, yes and no.
You say the quarantine was hard for you.
Yeah.
How so?
There was nobody to keep me accountable. There was nobody there watching me. And I feel like before, even though I was heavier, I feel like I gained a lot of weight just emotionally eating all the time during quarantine.
And how do you feel about what's identified mostly on the internet as the body positivity movement?
I think it's dangerous to be promoting that it's okay to be unhealthy. Especially as a mom of teenage kids, they're influenced by what they watch. And so I was very fearful that they would embrace this body positivity. I think it has a give and take to Jeremiah's point. I think it's great that people feel great about what they look like, but they should really prioritize their health.
Yeah. You were bullied at school.
Yeah, in elementary school.
And do you go to school now?
No, I'm homeschooled right now.
Why?
Last year was a little bit rough for me, mentally and also physically. So I just took a year to just work on my mental health, work on my physical health, and just take a year to take a break from everybody. And even social media, I haven't been on there. I'm just taking a break completely from my peers.
How do you feel about the body positivity movement?
I think it's fake. I think, honestly, people are just using that as a cover-up. Nobody's gonna be extremely excited that they're fat. And if you are, that's not exciting. That's not something to be proud of.
Well, let me weigh in on this right up front, because I want to be very clear about my position on this. A lot of people don't like to take positions. I take positions. I think the body positivity movement is really dangerous if they're glamorizing that, oh, hey, this is great, this is okay, it's, you just need to go with it.
I agree.
I think what's also dangerous is if you allow your self-image to vary with your body image. You've lost how much weight?
40 pounds this year.
You're not a better person because you're less here.
Agreed.
You weren't a worse person when you had 40 more pounds on you. You have the same spirit, you have the same heart, you have the same devotion to your children and your family. You're not a better person because of how much you don't weigh or how much you did weigh. To that extent, I agree with body positivity. What I don't agree with is glamorizing that, hey, this is a good thing, that we should celebrate being overweight.
And promoting obesity.
That to me is where they lose me. Your self-image should not go up when your weight is where you want it to be and down when it's not. Those things should not vary together. Do you follow what I'm saying?
I agree.
It's a big deal, and I'm going to talk about that a lot. Coming up, Suzie says she went to social media for advice on the shot. We'll talk about the shot when we come back. It's the season of giving, but not the season for going broke. Dr. Phil here with your mental health moment, brought to you by my good friends at Michael's. Your one-stop holiday shop to make the season bright. With everything you need to create a joyful holiday ambiance for every style, space, and budget. February is one of the worst months for depression because that's when the holiday bills hit your credit card statement. Right now, you need to decide how much money are you going to spend? How much money can you spend? How much money can you afford? Instead of trying to buy somebody a big screen TV or something else you can't afford, think about it. Maybe you want to buy a beautiful candle and sit down and write a heartfelt letter. Let people know beforehand, hey, please don't buy us expensive gifts. We can't do that this year, and it will be uncomfortable for us if you do. So we've set a limit. We're going to do what we can do and what we can live with after the fact. Or recommend having a secret Santa or something like that. But don't allow yourself to get pulled into a financial trap. Christmas has become a real commercial time, and it can take a year to get out from under it just to get back in it again. Think of how nice it will be to get through those holidays without any debt. Now that is a great gift for everybody you care about. Thanks again to Michaels for ensuring that holiday enthusiasts and last-minute shoppers can find what they need when they need it. Michaels, your destination for everything to create anything. In stores and online at michaels.com. Suzie says the semaglutide shot has been a miracle for her struggles with food and weight. In 10 months, she said she lost nearly 40 pounds. Now, Suzie says her 14-year-old son, Jeremiah, is following in her footsteps, struggling with his weight. She says the pandemic and social media just didn't really help.
I am on TikTok avidly. I love just scrolling on my For You page. And of course, I do see those mukbangs. Mukbang, it was invented in Korea, and it's pretty much somebody recording themselves eating a good amount of food and just eating in front of a camera, talking, consuming all of that. It makes you want to eat it. This is the last bite of the burger.
Social media has made an impact on Jeremiah's life. They're called influencers for a reason. And so when you find something that interests you, you're gonna go down a deep rabbit hole and spend hours and hours scrolling. Again, you're in a pandemic. TikTok is taking off. The children's eating habits definitely changed. Oh, let's make the frothy coffee. Oh, I just saw this recipe on, how to bake a cake from a mug in the microwave. Like there was one of the chicharron challenge where you deep fry a pork belly and you dip it into guacamole. When you are trying out a recipe on the internet, on social media, that doesn't give you the calories. He definitely needs nutrition. I don't think he has the mental maturity to understand what it can do to your body.
Okay, so Suzie, what's your journey been like on this?
I take these weekly shots and it helps me feel full and it gives me the control that I need to make the right choices of the foods that I should be eating.
Okay. And you've tried to lose that 40 pounds for how long before?
I've been trying to lose this 40 pounds since the last 3 years. Okay. I started a new job and I was back at a heavy weight and I knew that eventually I was going to meet these people in person. And, you can only look so beautiful and thin behind a Zoom. So I tried to, follow trainers on the internet. I tried to try different diets, but it just wasn't sustainable for me and I didn't feel motivated. I lost my sense of community.
Okay. Zoom doesn't have filters like...
Yes, you can do that.
It does?
Yes, it does. Yeah, it does. They could.
That's what I should do. Look like I have a cat on my head. So it's worked for you. Have there been downsides to it?
There are some side effects where when you first start taking it, you feel tired, a little bit of nausea. So that's really the only thing that I went through.
Why do you feel like your son needs to be on the same thing?
I'm worried about his health. He's a very confident person, and I've always instilled in that. Don't worry about what people think about you, but I want him to be a healthier version of himself so that he can achieve the things that he wants to do in life.
Have you started taking the medication?
I had the medication for about a month, and it was really successful, but we could not get the next dosage for it since it's at such a high demand.
Jeremiah, you say having less hunger makes you feel more in control. Mm-hmm. Have you done other things? Have you taken your own destiny in your hands and worked hard and gotten out on the track, broken a sweat, put together a healthy eating program?
Yeah, I wouldn't have breakfast. I would do intermittent fasting, and then I would go for a 3-mile walk, which only took like around an hour, then start my school, and then I would have like a salad or a sandwich for lunch, and then have like pretty much whatever I wanted for dinner and save my calories for dinner.
Yeah, you don't want to go on a diet.
No.
Right? You want to get a lifestyle that you can sustain across time.
That's right.
Yeah.
But there's no way to do this in a sustainable way without working hard. I mean,
Yeah.
you get that, right?
Yeah.
Coming up, we're gonna meet a mother who lost over 100 pounds on this injection, semaglutide. So she decided to put her 15-year-old daughter on it too. We're gonna meet them next and see what they have to say. According to the National Association of Anorexia Nervosa and Associated Disorders, girls as young as 6 years old start to worry about their weight. 6 years old. And by 14 years old, 60 to 70% are trying to lose weight. Now, risk of developing an eating disorder is 18 times greater than their non-dieting peers. Now, hear what I just said. 18 times greater. Now, Dena says that she's been overweight since she was 10 years old. It's a battle she's fought all of her life until she found the semaglutide medication, where she's now lost 100 pounds. So she decided to put her 15-year-old daughter on it as well.
I started taking GLP-1 medications October 31st of 2022. And I went from 366 pounds, and I just weighed in today at 229 pounds. I have tried so many different methods as far as losing weight. However, the thing that's different with the GLP-1 medication is up here. I'm not thinking about food all the time. My daughter Demi has seen me on my journey with the GLP-1 medication. And when they come out on the market for 12 to 18-year-olds, she asked me what I thought about her starting her own journey.
Ready? My first memory of struggling with my weight is the summer after 6th grade. I was hungry a lot, and I would constantly eat chips, and I gained 20 pounds.
She started out at 198 pounds, and she's down to 140 pounds.
First one, how do you feel? It was kind of scary because I didn't know how to do it.
At the end of the first month, I'd probably lost a total of 10 pounds. This medicine has not only helped me want to live my life, but it's also made it a lot easier to.
I have seen my daughter's journey cause her to blossom in so many ways. What parent does not want their child to just flourish and blossom in life?
Well, thank both of you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
This has been a lifelong issue, right?
Absolutely.
And you've seen doctors about this.
Yes. A lot of times doctors in the past have said diet and exercise, calories in, calories out. Mm-hmm. And I've done that my whole entire life. Mm-hmm. Calories in, calories out. Mm-hmm. And even gone to the extremes of having a weight loss surgery 20-some years ago. Mm-hmm. And even with the weight loss surgery, I still didn't lose all of the weight that they had anticipated losing. I still had the food noise in my brain of wanting more food even when I knew I wasn't hungry. Mm-hmm. And so then I found the GLP-1 medications many years later.
Mm-hmm. And how's that worked for you?
The GLP-1 medication has been a game changer completely. It's like nothing I have ever experienced in my life. Mm-hmm. And for the first time in my 51 years of life, I feel like, for a lack of words, a normal person around food. Mm-hmm. There's no other way to explain it.
Demi, this is something that you've had to deal with as well. Mm-hmm. You've been bullied at school.
Yes.
How so?
I've been bullied about my weight since I was about 11 years old. Mm-hmm. I even had a best friend who bullied me about my weight a lot. Even went to the extremes of if I went to her house, I couldn't eat anything and I had to work out with her, constantly comparing our sizes. It was just really hard because I thought that's what a friend was. So I didn't know any different. And I thought that was completely normal to be treated that way. And I've battled bullying with my weight up until about this upcoming school year.
Mm-hmm. This affect how you felt about yourself?
Yes, a lot.
What did you say to yourself?
I felt just disgusted by my body. I remember there would be times I would just stand in the mirror and look at myself and hold the extra weight that I had, and I would just cry because I hated who I saw. And that led to me having really bad mental health issues, even to the point where I started self-harming.
Mm-hmm. You say that your pediatrician is hesitant to prescribe the meds that you're wanting to do. They finally relented, but were hesitant?
Yes, at first, she really wasn't on board with doing it. And I said, well, doctor, first off, you prescribed it to me. So obviously, you're on board with the medication to begin with. And I realized that she's your first teenager that you're gonna be prescribing it to. And if I didn't think it was something that would benefit my child, or if it was something that would be harmful to my child, I would not ask you to prescribe this to her in the first place. Mm-hmm. And if this was something that had been around when I was a teenager, it could have completely changed my life. Mm-hmm. And I said, so how about we come up with a game plan and allow her to try it for 3 months? And between myself and Demi and you as her doctor, we work for 3 months to see what type of progress she can make. Mm-hmm. And that's where we started her journey.
Mm-hmm. This has worked out for you?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Coming up, we're gonna meet a woman who says she was just miserable spending her entire life trying to get thin until she had an epiphany. We're gonna talk about that when we come back. In times of uncertainty, stemming from economic volatility, political shifts, and global events, it's crucial to work together and unite as a country for a brighter future. Amid these challenges, it's important to take proactive steps to monitor and protect your finances and retirement accounts. That's why I'm turning to physical gold and silver to help protect my accounts, and you should too. Gold and silver prices reached record highs this year, and central banks are buying gold like never before. So get started today with Preserve Gold, the only precious metals company I trust and recommend. They have hundreds of 5-star reviews and millions of dollars in trusted transactions. Preserve Gold is giving away a free precious metals guide with information on how to help protect your accounts. Just text Dr. Phil to 50505, and you can get up to $15,000 in free gold and silver with a qualified purchase. So don't wait. Text Dr. Phil to 50505 to claim this exclusive offer from Preserve Gold today.
For body positivity, at first, I really do think that the movement was positive. People were empowering each other and empowering themselves. But when you're parading yourself with zero shame, that's disgusting. Promoting obesity, that's not something that I promote. Am I obese? Yes, but that's not who I am. I'm not making that my personality.
Jeremiah says the body positivity movement is definitely not for him. Now, Virgie is a body positivity influencer who says she was miserable spending her entire life trying to get thin. When she realized there were people who looked like her, she dedicated her life to changing the culture's attitude about weight.
Hi, this is Virgie Tovar, and I am going to smash the scale this year because there's no accurate way to weigh fabulousness.
I started a campaign called Lose Hate, Not Weight. I wanted to tell people that it was not weight that needed to be shed, but rather the ideology that we aren't perfect no matter what our size.
We know that 34 million people in the United States experience weight-based discrimination.
I too believe that I should do anything in my power to change my body because I'd been taught that people like me were ugly and inferior.
Thankfully, I found fat positive and body positive community who kickstarted my recovery. They taught me that food restriction was bad for me, that body size is largely determined by genetics, not how someone eats, but at the end of the day that all bodies deserve to exist, to be celebrated, and to be fed. Let's get a chubby round of applause for that, shall we?
Also joining us is Dr. Jaime Seeman, who is an obstetrician gynecologist specializing in nutrition, exercise, and health science. She is also a current fellow in integrative medicine and a board-certified ketogenic nutrition specialist. She believes there's only one way to live, and it's not being overweight. Welcome to both of you. I'm glad you're joining us.
Thank you.
You've been listening to everything we've been talking about. What did you want to say?
I used to wake up every day and my first thought was, I hate this body. I hate this body. And I came to body positivity through that pain, through that sense of, I've done a lot of things, I'm tired of living like this. And then when I went to graduate school and I started researching how weight impacted, how societal views on weight impacted things like gender. And I began to find that not only was there a strong human rights argument for ending weight discrimination, but that there was a strong evidentiary base for our views on weight and our approach, our medical approach, not having a holistic respect for the actual body of data. I think what's challenging, last thing I'm gonna say, I don't wanna talk too much, but I think a lot of our culture looks at weight through kind of a peephole. We've got that one data point that people in larger bodies have these different health outcomes than people in smaller bodies. And that's an important data point, but there's a lot of other data points around it that tell a much bigger story.
Let's talk about the data point that you are talking about, because when you look at the effects of being overweight on health and on the human body, and the risk that it imposes on the body in terms of mortality and disease, it is profound. If you're obese, you're 7 times more at risk for diabetes, 6 times more at risk for hypertension, 4 times more at risk for arthritis, 3 times for asthma, and 4 times for just having fair to poor health, as opposed to someone that is not carrying the additional weight. And that's not an opinion, that's fact. Doctor, am I telling this straight?
Yeah, you are. And I want to highlight something. I'm a human. I give compassionate care to my patients. I've not always been this healthy in my own life. I've struggled with my own body image issues. Obesity is a problem in America, and it's a problem for our long-term health and longevity, but there are thin people who are not healthy too.
Sure.
So I think we need to really separate this idea of what somebody looks like and that is what health is. Because what does health look like? My job as a medical doctor is to physically examine you, to talk to you, to check your vital signs, check some lab work, and that's really what determines how healthy or unhealthy you are.
And you don't disagree with what I was saying about the need to separate body image and self-image.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. And I think also it's important to understand, for example, it's really difficult to look at health outcomes in a vacuum. There's a story here. There's the loss, where there's really high mental health, plateau, and then there's the sort of the regain, which is very, very damaging for both the mind and the body. So I think kind of—
But what's the point?
The point is that this is the story of weight loss. That the story, people in my profession don't even call it weight loss, we call it weight cycling. Because it's not,
But you don't think you fix that by glamorizing obesity?
Well, I'm just saying that when we look at the data, which is that fundamentally this is what happens when you put somebody on a diet or you put them on a weight loss journey. What happens is they're gonna plateau and they're gonna restore, they're gonna regain. And this is the body's survival mechanism. It's actually really positive, but our culture sees it as a failure.
Okay, I'm gonna let you respond to that when we come back.
Okay.
Well, tonight we're talking with 2 mothers, Suzie and Dena, who say they want their teens on the semaglutide medication to help them with their weight. Now, Dr. Jaime Seeman is here, and body positivity influencer Virgie both believe the shot is not the answer. Now, I want to ask the audience here, I want you guys to take a poll. So grab your devices. Would you put your obese child on a prescription medication for weight loss? Hit 1 for yes, 2 for no. 1 for yes, 2 for no. All right, the results are in. It'd be great if elections worked this way. 58.9 say no, 41.1 say yes. Very interesting, okay. First, doctor, what's your response to what Virgie had to say?
Well, she's discussing the fact that many obese people lose weight, plateau, and regain. This is an absolute problem because we haven't really fixed the root problem. We really are focusing on the wrong thing. We're focusing on how fat people are, how obese people are, how much body fat they have, which is not what we should be focusing on. The problem that we have in America is we're overfed and we're undernourished, and we're not focusing on muscle and lean tissue. When somebody loses 100 pounds, even on GLP-1 medications, we know on average 30 to 50% of that weight loss can be lean tissue, can be muscle. And you're putting that patient in a state where they may be just as metabolically unhealthy as if they hadn't been on the medication. And we know when they go off the medication, at a year, on average, they regain 2/3 of the weight. So although this is an excellent tool, I myself have prescribed these medications to some patients, we're not fixing the problem, which is putting ourselves in an environment to thrive by how we eat, how we move, how we sleep, how we mitigate stress, our relationships. Virgie did highlight something. This is a biopsychosocial problem. We have a biological problem within our bodies. We're obese, we're inflamed, we have diabetes, but we're in an environment where there is a psychology behind it and there's a social environment behind it and how we raise our children. So this is a difficult problem to tackle. Medication can be a tool, but it's not going to solve the long-term crisis.
What do you think about the movement? And I'm not saying that this is tied to you, but the movement where it is not just depicted, but actually glamorized to be obese, that this is something to be celebrated.
So I have two issues. The first one is I'm a medical doctor. So it's my job to help patients stay healthy and to live amazing lives. It's not my job to look at their social media and determine how good or bad their health is, right? So that's the first part of it. The second part with the body positivity movement is that it's created by industries to sell products, right? We want people to feel confident, yes, absolutely. But if you're looking to the beauty industry for external validation, that's what it is. It's external appearance. That's what the body positivity movement is. They will chew you up and spit you out every time. What people really need to understand is that it's self-love. If you don't love yourself, nobody else can. So this starts at a really deep part down in our core, and we've all lived different lives and different experiences that have given us that internal language, but that's really what body positivity is about. I know people who are lean bodybuilders who don't love their bodies, all the way to the other end of the spectrum, and it is a problem, but glorifying disease processes and pathology, in my opinion, just isn't the answer.
Yeah, and I worry about what gets fed to young people on the internet. They feed them this toxic information that creates emotional upset to get them invested in it. And that's, I'm telling you, when you have a generation that is not living their lives, but they're virtually living their lives and watching other people live their lives, they're very vulnerable to that. And every one of you parents needs to be aware that your child is not just being exposed, they're being targeted. They're being targeted for money at their expense. We'll be right back.
So I'm here with my daughter. She's making her breakfast, and it's so important that we not just tell our kids what to eat, good foods, bad foods, but we empower them with the knowledge to make their own decisions. What are you having for breakfast?
Eggs.
Tell us one good thing that you're getting from these eggs.
Lots of protein.
Anything else?
Choline for my brain.
Choline. She's so smart, you guys. So teach your kids.
Obesity can harm nearly every system in a child's body. Children who are overweight have higher odds of staying overweight as an adult. I mean, the odds are like huge. So the bottom line, there's no debate here when it comes to stopping childhood obesity. It's something that we want to do for their well-being. Does anybody disagree that if we can stop childhood obesity from a health standpoint, that we should? Does anybody disagree with that? Do you disagree with that?
I mean, I just think that it's a very big phrase, right? Like, at the end of the day, right, body diversity is a real thing. There are naturally bigger people. There are naturally smaller people. What happens when you put a child on a diet is that you actually set them up to, over time, not only go through the stress that happens when you're on a diet, which is psychological, it's cardiovascular. Long-term dieting sets people up to gain weight over time.
Nobody said anything about dieting. I said, if you can push a button and keep a child from experiencing obesity. That's not what I asked you. I'm saying you're wanting to run an agenda about discrimination and
it's
ignore
not an agenda,
health.
But no, I don't want to health. I don't want to ignore health at all. I'm saying that
you do want to ignore health because you want to run a social agenda.
But Dr. Phil, I mean, we had a young man sitting right here in this chair that said he's very young. He doesn't love his body. He wants to lose the weight. So how do we support him in that endeavor?
Yeah, that's my point. And that seemed to me like a question that anybody would say yes to. If you could stop childhood cancer, would you say yes to that?
Well, I think what's hard is we're using the word obesity when there's actually body diversity, right? Like there are people in this room who have children who are naturally in larger bodies.
Well, there's also health diversity. That doesn't mean that you wouldn't want to eliminate some of that diversity.
As a mom who has an obese child, I want them to be a better version of themselves. When you think about, and this is probably another show, healthcare cost in the US, right? Where are we gonna spend our money, right? Do I spend it now in investing in him and being a better version of himself? Or am I gonna spend it later when he's in a hospital fighting some type of disease? Who's gonna take care of him when I'm not here? I'm his mom. So I wanna set him up for success in his life so that he can make great choices for himself. I don't want him falling into a deeper depression. He is here and he is on national TV saying he is not happy with his body. What am I gonna do as a mom to help him?
Right, I don't want to disrespect you as a mom. I think what's really hard is when we have a form of discrimination that we know is very, very harmful and very virulent, especially in the medical care community, we have to get rid of it. In the same way that we would be very concerned about racism, we'd be very concerned about sexism.
Then you work on the discrimination, not the obesity. You're saying you would preserve a certain percentage of childhood as obese so you could maintain diversity of body types?
Well, no, I mean, not artificially. I think that's what we're actually doing now, is we're actually artificially trying to create children that in a size that they're not naturally.
Jeremiah, you wanted to say something, and we're talking about you like you're not here.
Those are just not the same thing. Race and the size of your body are just not the same thing. Of course, people are always gonna discriminate against your sexuality, your race. That's something you cannot just remove. That's human nature. That's part of who we are. We judge people on what they look like, their size, their color, their race, their sexuality, all of that. So you can't just remove that aspect. If you're gonna hire somebody in a job, you're gonna pick the person who looks nicer. You're not gonna pick the person who looks bummy.
Well, I mean that kind of, hiring someone on the basis of how they look is discrimination. And
absolutely,
I think that's
exactly,
that's
but
wrong.
You can't remove
absolutely
that. That's just part of life. That's always been a part of life.
Well, but it should be removed, and that's what we should focus on.
You can't boil the ocean.
Final thoughts when we come back. Doctor, what can Jeremiah do? What can his mom help him do to change his journey health-wise?
Yeah, I heard him talk about bits and pieces. He's trying to get out and walk more. He wants to move more. He has a little bit of a knowledge base as to how to fix this problem. But here's the trouble. We've really focused on move more, eat less. Calories in, calories out. It's been said in this show a couple of times. The problem with that mentality is if I throw you, Dr. Phil, into a swimming pool and tell you not to drown, what if you can't swim? He doesn't have all of the tools and skills that he needs, and this is something that you have to cultivate, you have to practice on a daily basis. He needs mentors and role models in his life to show him how to do it. He's just a young boy. So we need to teach him what foods are actually nutritious, not about calories anymore. Now it's about nutrients. It's about prioritizing protein in his diet because he's at an age where he needs to be building lean body mass. He needs to be building strong bones. But the other thing that he needs to do is he needs to get into the gym. He is strong and powerful and capable, and he is gonna get so much confidence. He's gonna gain so much confidence by seeing what his body can really do. I know he's never tried it, but sometimes I don't exercise to get better at exercise. I exercise to get better at life. To be able to run up a staircase and save a woman's life, to be able to get down on the floor and play with my kids. So it's not just about how much you can lift in the gym, but he's thinking about his sleep, he's thinking about stress, he's got some social environment, in place that's very supportive. But the low-hanging fruit is lifting weights and picking better foods.
Agreed.
Yeah. Jeremiah, how would you like it if Dr. Seaman was willing to help you and work with you to get on the right path?
I would really appreciate it. You know, she said that I'm strong and, you know.
Yeah. His mama didn't raise a fool. And you are willing to work with him and help him, right?
I'm willing to work with both of you. I would love to stay in contact with you. I'd love to support you in any way that I can. I'm a mom of 3 daughters, and I know what world our kids are living in, and it's tough out there.
I want to thank Dr. Jaime Seeman. Virgie, thank you so much. We don't agree on everything, but we agree on a lot, surprisingly. Just not everything. And that's okay. And I hope you'll come back when we talk about this again.
Thank you.
And thanks to all of my guests today. And thank you at home for watching, because here at Dr. Phil Primetime and at Merritt Street Media, we're going to continue to focus on the issues that we are all facing in our society. And boy, oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about. Also, my new book, We've Got Issues: How All Americans Can Stand Strong for Our Country's Soul and Sanity, is on sale now everywhere books are sold. And I get very down to the nitty-gritty in there. And you may not agree with everything I say, but it will certainly be thought-provoking. I'll guarantee you that. There's so much going on here right now. A new book, a new network, a new season of Dr. Phil in Primetime. To keep up with it all, text me at 59627. Simply type Phil and we'll keep you posted every step of the way. Every episode of Dr. Phil Primetime is because of you. Real people, real stories, real solutions. That's what we're about. So head over to drphil.com and tell me your story. And you could very well end up right here on stage, right next to me, which is a lot of fun, right? For more information about tonight's show, log on to drphil.com.